Here's something a little different. Today we're going to talk about how to improve those eyes in your wildlife images. Quite often when we're out shooting wildlife, we don't have the option to move around to get another vantage point to capture the really good looking eyes in our subjects. We know that a lot of our wildlife photograph shots are done in the early morning and late in the evening, or even backlit subjects, where we're not necessarily getting good looking eyes. I'm going to show you how to enhance those eyes right here in Photoshop. I know, Photoshop can be a little bit intimidating, but you're likely already paying for it with your photographer's plan along with Lightroom. So why not learn a few things and start using Photoshop to enhance your wildlife photographs? All that coming up. I'm Terry Vanderhyde, full-time professional photographer. Today I'm going to show you some techniques in Photoshop that'll get you improving the eyes of your wildlife subjects right away. If you're enjoying these videos, please give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and ring the bell to be notified of my next video. Today we're going to learn how to make a custom brush, work with adjustment layers, and work with layer masks, my favorite. All this sounds intimidating, I know, but don't worry, I'm going to step you right through it. The techniques I'm about to show you can be used on any photographs. So any photographs that have eyes in the image. So if you're photographing people, these techniques will work the same just fine. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, we're in Photoshop. We use in Photoshop 2023, the most current version you can get. New file. And we're just going to create a new file. This is just going to be a working area that we're going to work in. So this one happens to be 5x4 at 300 DPI. 300 DPI is something you're going to want to work with when we're creating this brush, because that's what we're going to do first, is create a brush. So we basically just have this file open, white background. You can see on the layers, we just have the one layer here. So let's go ahead and create a new layer, and we'll put that right up here. Now we're going to grab the lasso tool, which we're not going to do any selecting. That's what it's normally used for. But what we're going to do today is just do a little bit of drawing. So I'm not a great artist, but I'm going to show you what I want you to draw. And this doesn't have to be super accurate. This is just going to get us close. So what I want you to do is to draw a shape that's kind of similar to the United States. So we'll come down here. We'll do the West Coast. Come across here. Do a little bit of Texas. Come over here. Do a little bit of Florida. Come up the East Coast. Come up here, come down for a little bit for the Great Lakes, and then on over to finish up. So you can see that the image is selected, and this is a pretty good shape that we're going to look for when we're making our brush. So we need to make some changes to this in order for it to be the brush that we're looking for. So the first thing we're going to do is take some selection away. And the way we do that is we hold the Option key down. That becomes a minus selection. And let's go ahead and just take out Texas. This is not political. This is just for shapes. And we're going to take out Florida. So take out Texas and Florida, and now you've got this oblong shape. Doesn't matter the angle right now. This is just going to be fine. So what we're going to do is fill that with black. So go to Fill and Fill with black. So there we have it. Command D will take away those marching ants so that you don't have to worry about that. And we've got our little block here that we're going to start working with. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to kind of create some shapes inside of this so that our brush is going to be what we want it to. So we come down here to Shapes, and we pull down to the bottom this little arrow, and we go down to Custom Shape. And at Custom Shape, I want to fill with white, and I want no stroke, so that'll be just the red line through it, so there's not going to be any line around it. And then we come over here to our shapes, and we're going to pick leaf trees in the very first leaf tree. This is going to be our shape. So now we come over here and we draw. And if you hold the space bar down, you can kind of adjust where this tree is going to go. And this is what we're going to do. We're basically going to try to fill up most of the United States. Just like that. And we're going to fill it with white is what we wanted to do. Fill that with white, that's good. And now we click off of it, and you can see what we've done here. We have filled up with this leaves and tree inside of this kind of oblong shape. First thing we have to do is we have to combine these two layers over here. So we'll go down here and we'll make a new layer by this plus button, drag that up to the top. And now we're going to hold the Shift key, the Option key, Command key, and then the letter E. And that makes us a complete combo layer right up here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and blur it. So we'll go to Filter, and we'll go to Blur, go to Gaussian Blur. Now the amount of blur that you're going to use is going to be dependent on how big you made your file to begin with. So in this case, 6 looks pretty good. If you went up here, that's going to be too blurry, obviously, and down here is still a little too sharp. So in this case, I'm going to use about 6 or 7 just to give it a little bit of blur. That'll probably be just about fine. So we'll click OK, and now we have this blurry tree on a black background that's of the shape of the United States. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our selection tool here, which is the rectangle marquee tool, select the entire area. So you want it as tight as you can, but you want to make sure you're selecting everything. So that's what we've done here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go make our brush. So Edit, and we're going to go up to Define Brush Preset. And this is going to be our first part of this brush. So we're just going to call it I. And click OK. Now we get rid of our ants. Now what we can do is you can see that as we stamp, that's what we're stamping, is that tone. And the way that the gradations from the tree and the blur, that's what we're going to do with this. So now what we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over here to our colors and pick a color. Now this is going to be a reflection color, so I'm looking for something that looks like the sky. So maybe a light blue, probably about like that, a kind of a really light blue, and we'll click OK. And now what we're going to do, we're going to go up to our brushes, and we're going to go to New Brush Preset. So let's click on that. And what's great about this is this takes the brush we were just using, which is going to be our eye brush, and we're now going to title this Eye Highlight Brush. Now it's super important for you to click this Include Color because it'll include this blue color that we originally had chosen, okay? You can always change that later, but for now, it's going to make things real simple when you're working with this brush. So we'll click OK. Now we're going to go back up to our original brushes, general brushes, hit Soft Round Brush, and we're going to hit D, and that'll get us back to our default colors. And now we're back to where we should be started. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this out. We don't need this anymore. We don't need to save it unless you want to do more work on it, but we're going to be dumping that. And now we're going to actually put that brush into use. So let's go ahead and open up a file. We'll open up a picture here that I shot of my dog just the other day. That's Colby. And the first thing we're going to do when we're ever adding highlights or doing something to our pictures is we always want to never work on the background picture. I always like to just add a layer. That's what's so nice about Photoshop is you can just add layers, work on those layers, come back to them, change them, and you're not stuck with damaging the original image. It's all done, so if you do everything on layers, then you're just never going to damage the original. You can always go backwards. So we're going to hit the little plus button down here. We add a new layer. And let's zoom up. Z key gives us the zoom key, or the zoom magnifier. Now we brought up his eyes. And we're going to go over to our brush. So you can hit the letter B, or you can click on the brush tool. And you can see right now we're painting in black, and we're painting with this soft white. So if we were to paint, we would just do a soft white across it, but we don't want to do that. Let's go ahead and grab our eye highlight brush that we just made. If you scroll down, it should be down at the bottom. There it is, eye highlight. And you can see down here that it put in the blue that we originally had chosen. So whenever you want to get out of this parameters page, you can click up here in the white top of your image, and then that'll go away. So now we've got this brush, and we have the ability with our bracket keys to make it larger or smaller, depending on what we want. We also have the ability to go up here and change the rotation of it. So if we wanted to rotate it, you could see there, or rotate it the other way. And this is going to be important as we're working with this brush down the way. So it's always want to get the right type of rotation. So right now we're going to rotate this just a little bit more, and this is how we're going to use it. Let's click up here. And let's make it just a little bit bigger. There we go. Now, we're in blue, and all we're going to do is click. And then we're going to stamp that right on that eye. And we'll do the same one in the same angle over here. We're going to stamp that. So now you can see that we've stamped the highlight brush onto those eyes. Looks weird now, but we're not done with it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back over, hit D and get back to our regular colors. And we're going to go back to our original brush that we used before. So that'll be the round, soft brush, soft round brush. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create a layer mask. So a layer mask is found right here. It's the third icon over, add a layer mask. So this creates a layer mask. Now I use layer mask, it's my favorite tool in Photoshop. I use layer mask with just about every image I process in Photoshop. I even use layer masks with my sharpening techniques. Now I lay this all out in my book, Razor Sharp Nature Photography. In that book, I take you through step by step of how I sharpen my images with Topaz AI Sharpen. Now AI is good, but it's not nearly as precise as using a layer mask. So in that book, I show you how to use a layer mask with AI Sharpen. To get my ebook, Razor Sharp Nature Photography, it's only available on my website, imagelight.com. You can go to the digital products page and download your copy instantly right there on my website. All the support that I receive from you guys purchasing my products from my website helps me continue to make these videos, and I just want to thank you in advance. I'll leave a link for Razor Sharp down in the description below. So we've got our layer mask, and so now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little manipulation to it. We've got our soft round brush. Let's go ahead and zoom this up even a little bit more. We'll work on one eye at a time. Now we're going to paint in this layer mask with black. So as we use our regular brush, we can make it as small as we want. As we paint across it, we're basically creating a hole in this layer mask so we can see what's below it in the actual original layer. So for us, if we make any changes on this, we can always just either repaint in white or go back and undo it, and we're not affecting the original image. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take black and we're going to paint off anything that's around the actual eye. So we're just going to come right in here, right to the eyelid. Good, just like that. Come over and do the other eye. We're painting at 100%. Removing all of this extra highlight that we're not going to need, because you're not going to get a highlight on the eyebrow, but you are on the eyeball because it's reflective. So now also because the eyeball, the way it's shaped, it's round, so we want to give it a little bit more of a rounder look. So we're going to take the opacity on this brush and bring it down to about 25 or so. And now we're going to go and just soften the edges. Just kind of create some curvature in this reflection. Maybe a little bit right here. And we're doing this right on this layer mask, so nothing is being affected below. It's a really great tool to work and learn layer masks. And then we'll soften this here. And we'll soften that edge and bring it up here. So now we're going to zoom out. And you can see what we've done. We've added a reflection in the eyes that looks pretty realistic. It's just a little too bright. So what we can do is go up to opacity, pull that down, and drag this over. And usually, depending on your taste, I'm showing it a little more extreme on YouTube because it's harder to see. But you may find that it's 60% or so adds a realistic reflection in the eye, and it's a really nice highlight that you can add to pictures. Okay, so this is the system that we're going to use for improving our eyes, is we're just going to simply create a layer and put in our eye highlights just like that. Let's open another one. Here's one of a dove. And we're going to zoom that up so we can see the eye a little bit better. Add a new layer. And then we're going to go to our brush tool, hit the letter B, pull down and find our eye highlight brush. In this case, we only need one. So we're going to shape that however we want to the size that we want to have it, and probably right about there. And we're going to rotate a little bit. So it's rotated down. There we go. That's a little bit better. And we're just going to go ahead and just tap it. And we're just going to paint, kind of stamp it, dab it one bit. So now we go back to our brushes, go back to our original brush, which is our soft round. Get back into painting with our black, go to a layer mask, and now let's zoom in so we can see what we're doing. Hit B and paint away all the stuff that makes no sense of being there. Right, and keep it right on the eyeball itself. Bring the opacity down just a little bit to add some curvature. You know, whatever percentage you happen to use, I just landed on 13%. You just have to do more swipes, or you can move it up a little bit and be a little more aggressive and have your changes be a little quicker. So there we go. Let's zoom out, see what we've done. No reflection, reflection. That eye highlight really brings your focus into the eye, and that's what we're always trying to do. We're always trying to make sure that our eyes are in focus. So let's add a little bit to it by adding the eye highlights. All right, so let's open up another one. Open. And we're going to take up this file that I shot of a coyote. Shot this with my 600 Nikon. We're going to zoom in. I'm going to hit the Z key and zoom into the eyes, so that's all we're looking at. So now what we're going to do that's a little bit different is we're going to create an adjustment layer. And that's found here. There's 4 icons over is this little half moon thing. And you've got a lot of choices here, but what we're going to start with is hue and saturation. So let's go ahead and bring up this. This gives us all of our properties for our hue and saturation. And let's slide our saturation over, really extreme. And what we've done is, what's really cool about the adjustment layers is not only do you have the ability to adjust things with whatever adjustment you chose, but it also creates a layer mask that's going to allow us to add or subtract how much of that change in the image. So what we're going to do is fill this with black, and we're going to hit the B key, get our brush tool. We're going to be brushing with at 100%, and we're going to be using our soft round brush. And let's zoom that up just a little bit more so we can see what we're doing a little bit better. Now we're going to brush here, but we're going to paint in white. So let's go ahead and just bring some color, really intense color, into those eyes. There we go. Looks good. Now what we're going to do is create another adjustment layer. Pull this down, and this time we're going to go to levels. And let's add a levels adjustment layer. So what we're going to do is just bring this over. So just so that it just, in this case, brightens it up a bit. And again, we're going to fill this with black. Little shortcut key for filling it with black is Command Delete, and that'll fill it with black. So let's go ahead, use a space bar. You can get a little hand to move it around. Now what we're going to do is just add some brightness to the bottom of that iris. If you imagine an eyeball, it's rounded, but it also has kind of a dish where the iris is. So the light comes in and is going to reflect off that dish. So that's what we're going to do here, is we're going to just lighten up just that dish of that iris to give it a little bit of depth. And let's create yet another one. We'll do it one more time. We'll also do another levels, but this one's going to be a bit more extreme. So let's pull that over quite a bit so it's fairly bright. And again, we're going to come over here and fill it with black. Let's move this out of the way. And we're going to paint with white. We're just going to do this bottom section of the eye. Okay. So as we zoom out, we can see what we've done. Now that's pretty extreme, but this is the great part of doing this all on layers over here, is we now have the ability to just pull that back based on our opacity. So our opacity here, we're going to pull that all the way back. You know what? Let's just take it out for right now. We'll go to this one and we'll pull it back so it's not quite so bright. Yeah, that's good. Then we go back to this one and we can just bring it up just to have a little bit of difference in tone at the bottom of the iris. Good. And then same with our hue and saturation, might be a bit extreme, so we'll just take a little bit out. Now we've got, let's take a look at the difference. Here's with our changes to our eyes, and that's without. So it looks pretty cool. But we do need one more thing, and you already know what it is. It's an eye highlight. So let's go ahead and create a new layer. We'll bring that up to the top. So we've got a new layer on top. Go to our brush tool, pull down our brushes, and we're going to look for our eye highlight brush. That was that last one that we made. So we're going to click on it. There it is. Always can click up in this banner to get that dialog to go away. We can change the size by using the bracket keys. So let's go ahead and, in this one we need to rotate a little bit. So let's pull it up and we'll do a slight little rotation. That's a little too much. Let's rotate it just back just a little bit. There, that's good. So we can click up here, get that to go away, and just tap, and we're just going to tap a little bit of paint right there. So that's our highlight brush. Now we go in here, go back to, hit the letter D, go back to our regular colors, go back to our soft round brush, which is right up at the top, and we're ready to go into our layer mask that will really tune this up. So let's go over here and we go to our layer mask that we've added here, and now we're going to take our brush and we're going to paint out all these areas that we don't need by painting with black. There we go. So it's just on the eyeball. Don't need it on the fur, obviously. Fur is not reflecting. And then we can go in here and lower that opacity to kind of give a little bit of shape to this thing. So about 20%. We'll create it over here, darken it on the edge here, maybe darken a little bit here. Again, darken a little bit now around the pupil and along the edges, kind of just in a curving motion just to make it look a little more rounded. There we go. Now we hit the Z key and zoom out. And we know that's way too intense, so we're going to take our opacity and slide it down until it looks a little bit more realistic. Now check this out. Here it is with our, as we started, and that's with our eyes. We can actually lower that even just a little bit. What do you think? It's pretty cool. So having the ability to go in and fix those wildlife eyes is really a big advantage. And you can do this in Photoshop. You do it in layer mask. You're not damaging the original image. Then you just save this and you can always come back to it and make any changes you want. This is such a great tool to work in Photoshop and improve our wildlife eyes. Until next time, this is Terry Vanderhyde.